Hello, everybody, and welcome to Championship 365. Do not stop watching because I know I am not Ben HD and I'm going down Ben HD's channel. Ben HD is here, and so
I'm here.
is so everything's all right, and so is Justin Peach from the Second Tier podcast. So if you have no idea what's going on, it's okay. This is a new collaboration we've got together. Us championship content creators. We've been put together by Football 365 for a little show once a week. There was a show over on my channel 2 weeks ago, and then my missus had the temerity to go into labour 2 hours before we were due to record the last one. So sorry we missed the show, but the good news is that I had a child. So that's all good. We're going to talk a little bit about the first 2 rounds of championship football. Players that have caught our eye. We're going to stick our necks on the line and make a few predictions. We talk about some false positions as well. Who's miles away? Who, if the clock stopped now, would happily stop the count, in the words of the former President Trump. It's bad to have a mention of him within 2 minutes of the start, isn't it? And we're going to look at one of the midweek games and one of the weekend games. First of all, though, Justin, how are you?
Yeah, feeling a bit rough, but on the mend. Very, very, very well now. So it was bad, but it's good. So not too bad.
So Justin is coming out the other side of COVID, so we wish him well. And Ben, of course, how are things going for you with Preston, one of 2 teams on 0 points?
Yeah, not the best feeling in the world. I'm relating to Forest fans being in that 0 point gang at the moment. Fingers crossed that's going to change soon. But yeah, we'll wait and see, won't we?
That's what I love about you, Ben. Just ever the optimist. Brilliant stuff. You haven't been tarred by my 20 years of Ipswich, never finishing above halfway in any league they've ever been in. But there we go. Right. We are going to look at some eye catchers after this. Okay, so 2 rounds down. We spend a lot of time before the season trying to figure out what people's first 11s are going to be. There's often some obvious players we know are going to have a good season based on what we saw last season. A few interesting ones pop up as well. Let's just go around the sort of table here. And who has caught the eye for you, Justin? Who's your first eye catcher in the first 2 rounds of championship games?
Yeah, the first one I'll throw in the mix is Rob Dickey. I think not only is he obviously a centre half, he's also the joint top goal scorer in the championship currently, which is a pretty decent feat for
Ronald Koeman.
Exactly. No, literally does think he's Ronald Koeman. The goal he scored against Millwall shows that perfectly. But what he's showcased so far is just an extension of what he showcased last season. We know how good he was for QPR last season. Even when QPR were really poor in the first half of the season, he was a standout player in a defence that leaked goals quite often, but then they started to improve and it really started to showcase how good he was. He's such a key component of that back three, and his partnership with Device and Barbe is so underrated for me. Probably one of the best in the league, and if he keeps scoring goals as well, he's going to certainly catch the eye of teams above him. And that goal line clearance against Hull, it's a game changer. It was insane. Yeah, really, really good player, and I think he's going to really kick on this season.
So I have no information on this, but say I'm like the West Ham owner and I'm in a bit of a panic in this transfer window. How much of my readies, how many piles of cash do I need to move Rob Dickey with a long time left on his contract right now?
I think QPR fans have said we'll accept no less than 20 million. And it's hard to see an argument against that. You saw, I think Chris Mepham cost a fair whack for Bournemouth. And I don't think he was as good as Rob Dickey is now. Same with James Tarkowski. That's a bad example because he went for peanuts when he was at Brentford. But players like that, Ezri Konsa.
Mawson was like 15 million.
Exactly.
20,
and I think,
wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think Dickey's a lot better than these players. So anything less than 20 million, no chance.
Yeah, that would make him half as expensive as Nathan Ake last season as well. So, yeah, there's lots of parameters to go by. Yeah, good shout, that one, Justin. Who's caught your eye so far, Ben?
Yeah, the first player that I wanted to pick out was Keane Lewis Potter. Opening game week especially, I was really quite impressed with him. I think we all knew that Hull's sort of main attacking threats this season were going to come from those sort of wide forwards and then looking to feed off McGuinness and things like that. But him up against Jordan Storey on the opening game week was such a mismatch. It's funny actually because I remember a couple seasons ago going to the KCON and I watched us get absolutely torn apart by Jared Bowen. And I thought that day, like, okay, this kid's got something and he's going to go to the Premier League. And while Lewis Potter isn't quite at that level yet, the potential is definitely there. I wouldn't say he's got an arrogance, but he's definitely got sort of like a self-confidence about him, which I think will be a real asset. You know, he was like shushing the home fans after he'd scored and stuff like that. So the guy's got real belief. And yeah, there's some real ability there this season. He's definitely one to watch.
Do you think that Jared Bowen comparisons will work in his favour because people will hype him up because of it, or do you think it's do you know what I mean? Something that might hold him down.
I think potentially. I think it's something that Hull could probably use as a bargaining chip. You know, later on down the line when they are looking to negotiate that fee, and you see how someone like Bowen's going on to do at West Ham. So yeah, big hopes for him.
So I'm going to go for Isaiah Jones and his mask. I watched the Fulham Borough game, and I know you'll agree with me on this, Justin. I'm getting all these comments. This is dull. This is boring. And I'm like, this is brilliant. This is Warnock. I love it. I think they had sort of 26% possession, and then they took off Ikpeazu, and I made the mistake of going, what is Warnock doing here? And then, of course, 10 minutes later, so we're now going to have Tavernier and Isaiah Jones, who I didn't know anything about, very direct down the left-hand side, set up the goal for Mark Boller. It was between him and Jaden Anthony, who's sort of done quite similar things for Bournemouth as well, hasn't he? He's got a couple of goal contributions. Plays 20 minutes, and then Warnock starts him in the next game. So I'm excited to see Isaiah Jones move on this season. He's my first one. What would be your second pick, Justin?
Ben Brereton Diaz for me all day.
You're going for the full double barrel.
You have to, especially after that Pepsi ad. You can't not, can you? He's fully ingrained in the Chilean national team now. He's Ben Brereton Diaz to me, and always will be until he retires.
Can you be one of those pundits that puts on the Spanish accent when they say the name?
I'm so Derby that I'll butcher it. Absolutely no chance.
Yeah, what about filling that gap, the goal gap now Armstrong's gone?
Yeah, he's got the confidence of a player who's going to score 20 goals this season, which is such a bonus for Blackburn, not only because they spent a lot of money on Ben Brereton, as it was back then, but he's not really fulfilled that potential that he had at Forest. I remember that, I think it was the FA Cup game against Arsenal, where he basically retired Mertesacker. And yeah, he was phenomenal that day, and he's not really kicked on. But I think the confidence he's taken from the end of last season into the Copa America for Chile, and then into this season, he's got it all ability-wise as well. He's quick, he can dribble, his finishing's improved massively. I saw some of the goals he scored for Chile, for example, and they were really tidy finishes. And he's been in the right spot at the right time. That goal against Millwall, it's not very often you're going to score a header in the box against Millwall at the Den, and he did it. So yeah, he's a player for me who's got the confidence, who can go on to score 20 goals this season for Blackburn. So you don't need to go out and spend money on a new player, pretty much.
Are you ready for a cringe-inducing link? We're going from talking about BBD to hearing from BHD. I regretted it even before. It's pathetic, isn't it? I regretted it even before I said it. Ben, talk about your second player. So before the comments fill up in for me.
Yeah, so my second player is Callum Robinson. I really think that West Brom fans are going to see something quite special from him this season. I think that him working under Ishmael is a bit of a perfect blend, to be honest with you. When he first arrived at North End, Robinson was, your sort of typical sort of League One Championship standard winger. But the work that Alex Neil did with him in his first season in the job, I think has made Robinson perfectly suited for this new system now. There was a time when Robinson spent a few months out of the starting 11, actually, And Alex Neil came out and said that, listen, Robinson, he's got he's a great player. He's got everything about him in terms of technique and on the ball, but he's not going to get into that first 11 until he learns how to do the stuff off the ball. And eventually, when we sold Jordan Hugill, Robinson sort of came in as that immediate replacement into that number 9 role and playing as that pressing forward. I mean, it's perfect, under Ishmael, isn't it? And I go as far to say that, should West Brom be in the top 2 come the end of the season, I think Robinson might be a shout come the end of the year for Championship Player of the Year. I truly think that he's going to be involved in that many goals, and he's going to set them up. We've already seen it so far this season. Yeah, I think he's going to be right up there this season, Robinson.
Do you think that Dean, Garner, Robinson and Grant, do you think anyone would swap front lines with that in the Championship?
No, well, I don't know. I mean, there's still talk anyway that West Brom are after another striker to add to that, which is the scary thing. But in terms of flexibility, ability and pace to get in behind and stuff like that, they'll score a lot of goals this season. I think they'll be a lot of fun. I
suspect that striker will be really physical and really massive as well. Just knowing Ishmael and Daryl DK last season as well. Look, my last one's a bit of a stating the bleeding obvious one, but I've gone for John Swift, who Reading just couldn't get in the team last season. It was all right because Michael Elise obviously was so good and came through, but certain players are just numbers guys, aren't they? I look at Zinkernagel, who's just gone alone for Forest. You won't notice him for a lot of games, and then you realise he's got 7 assists in 14 games. How has he done that? Swift will, I think he's already got sort of 2 goals and an assist already. I think 15 to 20 goal contributions in that side now where Elise is not there, and he'll get more when Maite returns as well. But I know he's been on the radar a long time. I just think Swift is going to put up some really nice numbers there. Let us know what you think in the comments, and let us know your eye catchers from the first 2 rounds. Okay, are you ready to embarrass yourselves? Because we're going to do... I was asked for outlandish predictions. So not sensible predictions, but outlandish predictions. So look, it is a bit of fun before anyone gets emotional about anything we're about to say. So let me go first. And my outlandish prediction here is in round 1, none of the parachute 4 won. Sheffield United lost at home to Birmingham. Bournemouth and West Brom played each other and drew. Fulham drew to Borough. My outlandish prediction is that will not happen again in any of the remaining rounds this season. So there will not be another round where none of, unless the fixture computer screws me on this one and we get 2 against 2. I don't think it will, though. So I'm going to go for the big 4, the parachute boys, to not repeat that first round where none of them won. Justin, is there any chance of that occurring?
I mean, given how Fulham demolished Huddersfield, probably not. And West Brom have got a lot of gears to go. The only worries I have are Bournemouth because of squad depth and Sheffield United because they've forgotten how to attack. So they're the only 2 sides there I'm going to go, yeah, that might, they could repeat that no win scenario, but I think the other 2 teams, Fulham and West Brom, they're going to score a lot of points this season, so it's very hard to see that not happening.
Ben, say something outlandish.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how confident I feel about this, but my outlandish shout for this season is that no player this season will score 20 goals. I don't think we're going to get a 20-goal a season striker this year. I just don't think it's going to happen. Now, last year we had an abundance of attacking talent in the Championship. Ivan Toney smashing it, Timu Pukki, Adam Armstrong, Keith Immord, Lucas Jow was up there. We had an abundance of these great individuals. And while we still have that, great attacking talent in the Championship this year, I can't help but feel like, especially with some of the teams at the top, there's more of a reliance on the system now than there is individuals. The one player that's probably going to make me look stupid here come the end of the season is probably going to be Mitrovic, if we're being honest. But I mean, even he's not quite
got score whilst falling over, Ben.
Exactly, and that's where my argument sort of falls down, and I do accept that. So maybe one player will get there, but I don't think it'll be like last season where we had, an abundance of players getting over that 20-goal mark. It's everyone's dream to sort of have a 20-goal a season striker in the Championship. Preston fans are saying it at the moment, but for me at the moment, I'm not sure there's going to be one this season.
I love it. See, if you hadn't gone outlandish, you'd have said 25, would you? But you've gone in at 20.
Yeah.
I'm just having a look at my nerd wall, which is covered in Championship stats, which tells me 17-18, which I call the year of the number 10. Mate Vidra top scored with 21 for Derby County. So this would be setting a precedent, but that was where all the systems sort of started to change. So I like it. You get good odds on that one for sure. Justin, outlandish prediction.
Yeah, I originally went with Fulham to get the Championship points record, but I don't think that's outlandish. It was literally
107. Yes.
Honestly, I think they can, but I don't think that's outlandish. I changed my mind in the last 5 minutes. I actually think that Sheffield United will finish lower than 17th.
Lower than 17th?
Blimey.
Yeah,
that's sure, Justin. Surely that would be Jukanovic done by December, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you definitely think so. But there's method to the madness. And I think back to the season that Sheffield United had last season, where attacking wise they were just so blunt, almost non-existent at times. If we bring in XG and whatnot, you can start to build the argument even more. And then also, they forget how to win, and that becomes a habit for teams. And the teams that I think about that it has happened to, Wolves, I think it was the 11-12 season when they came down with Terry Connor in charge because Mick McCarthy got sacked. Didn't win in 10
Never
games.
Get rid of Mick McCarthy. You know what happens the season after.
It's a lesson for everyone. But they went down the next season. They went down the following season. The same thing happened to Sunderland. The same thing happened to Villa under Remy Gard. Forget how to win, finish mid-table, while spending a ridiculous amount of money. And I think the same thing is going to happen to Sheffield United, because I don't think, no matter what talent you have in the squad, I think it's all about confidence and just the mindset to go out and put teams away. And I don't think Sheffield United have that at the moment. I think they will get it at some point, but if I'm going to make an outlandish prediction, it's going to be that.
And I'm glad you said that at the end. My friend Justin, who I'm going to stand up for, was asked to make an outlandish prediction. So Blades fans, we love you. We loved you in 18-19 with Chris Wilder. He was asked to make an outlandish. I feel, Ben, Justin's gone all in with that, and we've kind of pulled out of the tackle halfway through there, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. He's really gone all guns blazing on that one, which I've got to respect. Come the end of the season, let's see how it's looking.
Yeah, right. Let's move on, and we're going to talk about some false positions. So we often hear this. We hear two things. We hear the table never lies on the one hand, and then in direct contradiction to that, the same people then say they're in a false position. Now, look, we can have plenty of false positions 2 games in, although we do have this ridiculous, like the most Championship thing in the world is 10 teams tied on 4 points after 2 games. We're going to look at some false positions, and we're going to completely define that as how far you are away from your actual final position in the table. So if I can open up, and I'm going to throw Swansea into the mix. I don't know why. Swansea currently 19th. Having seen Russ Martin settle in and Flynn Downs come in, and the promise of a couple more signings, and just how completely wedded to this philosophy and how confident he is, I think they could climb possibly into the top half. So I'm talking over 7 places from that 9 teams. So I think Swansea are currently a long way away from where they're going to finish. Who's your first false position, Justin?
I've gone with Birmingham City. And obviously they're currently in 10th. And I think some will say that's probably a fair result. But I think over the first 2 games, we've seen similar issues that they had last season where they just don't create a hell of a lot of chances. I think that will improve throughout the season, but not enough for them to win too many games. So I do actually think they'll start to drop down, sort of start to finish lower mid-table. I don't think they'll be near relegation this season, which is a massive improvement on previous seasons. But I just think that, especially style of play, I think it's going to take some time just to get going. And there have been improvements already, and I think they will be defensively solid, but it's just putting the ball in the back of the net that I think might still be an issue for Birmingham City.
A few interesting comments towards Mr. Hogan from some of my Birmingham friends in the last game. I think there's perhaps some improvement there to be made. Ben, false position. Who's in a false position at the moment?
Yeah, I know that me and you had some similar thoughts on this one, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on it as well. But Blackburn Rovers, at this point in time, they're in the top 6, and I remember last season was a bit of a fast start for them as well. I think they put 5 goals past Wickham on the second game week or something like that, wasn't it? But looking into the 2 matches that they've had so far, season opener against Swansea, I think they had like the highest XG of the whole championship that weekend, but let's be real, they were gifted quite a few opportunities in that one. Swansea trying to play out from the back, develop a new philosophy. Obviously they got the penalty in that one and stuff like that. And the second game week against Millwall, great point away from home, but they obviously scored with their
one shot on target, Ben.
Yeah. Exactly. Scored with the only shot on target. I think that Millwall will be ruined some of their missed chances in that one. So, yeah, I can't help but feel like Blackburn at the moment, they may continue this for a few more weeks, but once the grind of the championship really sets in, I think they may tumble down a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Blackburn was actually my second one, and you kind of look at it, and if you gave Blackburn fans playoffs now, I'm sure they would be overjoyed and preparing for their semi-final. I think I'd be interested to know what you guys think, actually. I don't think the Armstrong thing is almost as big a deal as it could be, on the basis that Ben Brereton Diaz, I did it, there you go, and Sam Gallagher, Tyrese Dolan are all there. I honestly think they might spend the money in another area of the pitch rather than actually bring a striker. And I know Armstrong was like a one-man wrecking crew, so just dribbling and shooting and dribbling and shooting. Blackburn's just a bit weird to me, because I remember thinking how they'd underachieved last season. But that was obvious. I was trying to be wise after the fact then, because I then looked back at my pre-season prediction and they finished pretty much where I said they would. I think it was just seeing Harvey Elliott and this guy at his age group level, and I'm not going in hyperbole, one of the best in the world at his age group level in his sort of coming through those systems. And you think, if they can really get this going. And then I always said they were like Norwich in the first season under Daniel Farke, where all the numbers were good, but it was all a little bit slow. And then it was just give the ball to Maddison, give the ball to Armstrong, give the ball to Elliott at the end of the season. And then, of course, Norwich were one click away from 90 points and promotion, weren't they? Whereas Blackburn, I'm not so sure. So I do think, there'll be a regression. And honestly, I think if we were to do false positions in about 4 weeks' time, I haven't looked at the fixtures, I think Blackburn will have dropped a few places by then. But good luck to them. And Tony Mowbray, as I point to my Ipswich scarf on the wall there. Justin, second false position from you.
Yeah, I'm going to irritate you guys a little bit. I'm going to change my mind again.
I love it. It's good.
Before. But I'm looking at the table now, and I am thinking Nottingham Forest down in 23rd. I just don't think they're going to be anywhere near the bottom 3 come the end of the season. I think mainly because, and I feel for Chris Hughton because he's got a lot of stick on social media over the last few days, and I understand that Bournemouth going down to 10 men should have made attacking substitutions earlier on in the game. But essentially, he's clearing up the mess of a lot of previous regimes behind him, and he's got to deal with that. And I think he has been let down in recruitment this summer. I don't think that they need to bring in a left back, and they need to bring in a striker as well, and they've not been able to do that. So he's playing with what he's got. I think the likes of Zinchenko coming in, I think they're going to create more opportunities for the likes of Taylor and Graben, because if they put chances in front of those 2 strikers, they're going to finish them, because that's what they've been doing all their careers. And last season, they were positive last season. They were the best defence outside the top 6. I think that will improve once Joe Worrell's back fully fit, and once they have a settled back 4 as well. Osei Tutu looked at a decent player for Cardiff at times, and then he had a steady debut against Bournemouth. So they've still got a lot of gears to go through. they've still got levels to get to. So I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the bottom 3 come the end of the season. I would expect them to be closer to the top 6 than they would be the bottom 3.
Yeah, good point. If I'm playing the apologist game, I can look at both of Forest's opening games and say, well, threw the first one away against Coventry, didn't they? And didn't concede really chances. I don't think they conceded any big chances in either of their 2 games so far. And then, like you said, against Bournemouth, they got level and then the red card. You can make an argument that if you do your Football Manager reset and play those games again with the same game state, that it may be a little bit different. And Chris Hughton's always beasted the Championship, hasn't he? So, Ben, one more false position from you.
Yeah, one more from me. I'd throw Millwall into the mix. I think they're around 16th at the moment in the table. And at the start of the season, I had them, I think, 7th in my prediction, so just outside the playoffs. So I think they are a little bit lower than I would have expected at this point. Obviously, we all know, Gary Rowett loves a draw here and there. It's been 2 draws for Millwall so far this season, which probably isn't too surprising, to be honest with you. But I think that when you look into both of those matches, opening day draw against QPR obviously isn't a bad point. The first 60 minutes, I think in that game especially, Millwall probably edged it in terms of looking like the better team. Loads of energy. There just seemed to be a bit of a drop-off after that with all they were putting into that performance. I thought at the weekend they should have picked up all 3 points against Blackburn. We discussed it before. Blackburn scored with their only shot on target. I think Millwall are so close to being this complete team, this well-functioning team that will grind out the season. It's just, once again, we come back to it, and we always seem to with Millwall, that last little bit in the final third. And whether that is them, dipping into the transfer market and maybe they look to get someone else to play up front to sort of supplement the Phobe, then they can drop Jed Wallace a bit deeper into a more creative role, or they do look for someone a bit more creative in that midfield, because I think that the numbers in terms of the chances they created, the positions they were getting into, have all looked quite positive so far. It's just having that bit more sort of dynamism in the final third to get over the line. So, come the end of the season, I think that Millwall will be much higher than they are now.
Totally agree. I was writing on Football 365 yesterday about Jed Wallace, and sometimes having a player like that for a manager like Rowett, it can be a blessing and a curse, because if you do like to sit back and play on transition and not make big chances for Benica Phobe, Jed Wallace will pick it up and smash it in the top corner 8 times a season. But in terms of long-term viability, we all know that good teams create loads of big chances. Easy chances for strikers to tap in, don't they? Also, they seem to have, I don't know how many goals Cooper has. It feels like since Harris was there, they were just impossible from set plays, and it feels like that danger has just dropped off a little bit. And if they can bring that back up, then I agree, they can make that final part of the jigsaw. Right, we're going to look at some head-to-head games for this midweek and for the weekend. So complete transparency here. It's Tuesday morning. So for this to have some legs, we're going to pick one from tomorrow night and then one from the weekend to get Justin and Ben's thoughts on. So I've picked this one out, Justin. Birmingham versus Bournemouth on Wednesday night. I'm interested for a few reasons. One, you've already picked up on, in the Birmingham style of play, and at what point Lee Bowyer tries to make it look more like Charlton than League One Charlton with Bielik, as opposed to Birmingham trying to avoid relegation last season, versus Bournemouth, who look like they're playing Parker ball a bit faster than Fulham played Parker ball, but they've still got all these good players injured. But Kilkenny and Zamora, Anthony coming in and looking good. David Brooks looks more like 2017, 18 David Brooks, wouldn't it? How'd you see this one going, Bowyer versus Parker?
Yeah, this is actually a really intriguing game, mainly because the teams that Parker have come up against so far, West Brom and Forest. Forest at home, they'll like to keep the ball, or they will keep the ball. So Parker's new Parker ball is all about pressing. I think they made the most tackles in the previous previous round of games. Yeah, it made the most tackles in the league. So they've got that sort of new emphasis of pressing teams. Bowyer's Birmingham will be happy without the ball, especially against a side that have dangerous attackers that Bournemouth do. So I think it's going to be a difficult game for Bournemouth. It's going to be a different game as well because we're going to see them with the ball more than they have done in the previous 2 games. So, and obviously they're going to be without the likes of David Brooks, who's suspended for the game this week. So again, that emphasis with the ball is they lost a creative player in that sense. So and then another factor to pull in there is what Bowie's going to what weaknesses Bowie's going to pick out, because Djukovic is going to have the mopping of the defenders, the Bournemouth defenders, because of how dominant he is in the air. So is it going to be a case of trying to hit them on the counter and try and get balls in the box as early as possible? Or is it going to be play direct and play off the flicks? So tactically, it's such an intriguing game. But for me, I can see it going sort of a 1-0 Birmingham, just because we've seen it against Sheffield United. Birmingham will be happy to sit back and then hit the team on the counter. And I think they'll do it again against Bournemouth, because Bournemouth, will they know what to do with the ball? I think they'll be good enough, but without the likes of David Brooks, he might struggle.
What do you think, Ben? And can I just throw in, do you think we'll see Mark Roberts at any point send Jutkovic up from a throw inside his own half? I'm trying to work out whether you go. I saw this brilliant game once. It wasn't a brilliant game. It was Cardiff versus Derby. And Cardiff were doing long throws to win long throws. So Morrison would try the ball, or no, it wasn't Gunnison, and they'd throw it down the line to win another throw to then throw it in the box. It was tremendous stuff. Anyway, what do you think on this one? So Birmingham, Bournemouth.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I agree with a lot of what Justin's just said there. I think that an early goal in this one would do Bournemouth a world of good. I think the longer that this is at 0-0, that really suits Birmingham more. And, like Justin was picking up on, Birmingham really do seem to have a knack of just edging these sort of games, don't they? I remember, I think it's the first 2 games, the first 3 of the previous 3 seasons, they've all won 1-0, haven't they? And they've been like
with
totally stacked against the odds for
XG in one of those
it's
games.
Crazy.
Insane.
It's crazy. But with Birmingham, it's just a question of will they have sort of that edge in the attacking third to sort of get around Bournemouth in this one. It also may end up being a bit of a weird atmosphere again, because obviously they got the 2 main stands closed for this one. I don't know how much that played into their goalless draw against Stoke, and whether that a full crowd at St Andrews really gets them over the line in that one or something like that. But I think for me, I had it predicted as 2-0 Bournemouth. But if they don't get that first goal in maybe the first half or something like that, Birmingham could really sense they've got an opportunity there to pick up something.
Phil Billings started the season well. I'm sure his agent is very pleased with with such progress so far. Let's talk about Friday night, and just a beautiful matchup, this one, which is Bristol City versus Swansea. So, Justin, we've got it was one of you 2 guys mentioning forgetting how to win, which totally applies. It was about Sheffield United, wasn't it? Totally applies to Bristol City, who I did it yesterday, actually, from the last 43 games. So all bar the first 3 games of last season have been in relegation form, basically. And do you know what, Justin? I looked at the team the other day. It's a bit like looking at the Derby team, where you think, oh, this is disaster. And you actually look at the first 11 and you're like, that's all right. Do you know what I mean? That should get some points in the Championship. But obviously, like chaos at Derby and Bristol City forgetting how to win. And then, of course, you've got the developing story of Russ Martin trying to beat that 83% possession record that Parker's Fulham got against Millwall a couple of Augusts ago. Someone could get a first win in this one. Is it more likely Bristol City or Swans?
That's a really good question. Swansea have got everything going right for them other than scoring, which seems really daft. The issues were there under Steve Cooper. They relied heavily on the likes of Andre Ayew being the creative spark. Connor Roberts is a big loss as well, because he was such a big outlet on the right-hand side. Jake Bidwell is good for assists. He's rumoured to leave as well. So yeah, they're in a really weird position. But against Sheffield United, going forwards, they were fantastic. All the build-up play was great. It was just that missing final spark. And then from Bristol City's perspective, Yeah, I have no words actually to try and describe what sort of state they're in going forwards, and they just have an issue with creating chances. Naki Wells, Chris Martin, they're past it now at championship level potentially. Yeah, they're in a bit of a problem area themselves. So I've got to edge towards Swansea City. I think Joel Pyro will come good at some point. I think the likes of Flynn Downs has really helped Swansea. I think he looked really good against Sheffield United. So yeah, I'm going to go with I'm going to go 2-0 win to Swansea.
It's funny, as soon as you were saying that, Justin, you know, we were talking about Zinkernagel or Swift or someone who won't do a lot of defending, but just can create, just lack that player at the moment. And like you said, they had it, didn't they? Because Ayew could do whatever at any point and make a goal, couldn't he? Bristol City, Swansea, Ben.
Yeah, I think the worry from Bristol City was if they didn't get off to a good start to this season, then it would feel like a bit of a continuation from the last one. And that's the sort of vibes that we're getting at the moment, you know. Whereas we look at Swansea, and while the results haven't quite been there so far, we can see that they're building towards a process. With Bristol City at the moment, it's not quite as clear-cut in that regard. I think that last season they had the fewest amounts of shots in the Championship, and I think they were quite far, you know, to the bottom of that list. I don't think they were anywhere near second bottom in that regard. So, you know, I was willing to sort of give them the benefit over the doubt over the summer and think that they would have worked on those sort of things. But at the moment, those same sort of issues seem to be coming to a front in this one. So in terms of the game itself, I wouldn't be surprised if this one is a fairly low scoring one. You know, one goal either way wouldn't surprise me. But I think for me personally, I'd just be edging towards Swansea maybe to edge, you know, a 1-0 or something like that.
Just a quick yes or no. At any point in this season, is Russ Martin going to get over 80% possession in a game, Justin?
I'm trying to think of the teams he could possibly get it against.
Houghton, Warnock, Rowett, the ones that don't need the ball. They'll probably lose that game, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, too right. I reckon he will. Yeah, I reckon he'll get like sort of 85 against a Blackpool or something.
Ben?
Yeah, Swansea Cardiff this year is going to be unreal. I cannot wait for that game. That's going to be. It's such a clash. It's such a clash of styles, and it's going to be such a ferocious one in the stands and stuff like that. That I cannot wait for that game this season. It's going to be unreal.
Do you not remember the one last year where Flint scored after, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, didn't he? And you could see Mick literally move over towards his back line in the technical box and go, right, here we go then, boys. Let's sit in and get this win. Here we go. You've totally nailed it with Cardiff Swansea. I now cannot wait to watch. I don't know what people are missing when they don't watch the Championship. Sensational stuff. Brilliant from both of you. Right, that'll do us for our Championship 365 show. So, just to reiterate the concept, we've been brought together by Football 365 for a regular Championship show, and we all have platforms of our own, which we would love you to go and subscribe to. The boys will do. Actually, I should probably do my plug beans. We're on your channel here, shouldn't I? And then in the end, we're going to be moving to the Planet Sport Network at some point, but we're gonna, for a little wee while, we're gonna move around our channels. Please check out football365.com, and there will be a predictions league sort of technology coming up very soon, fingers crossed, in development, all of that good stuff over on football365.com. Justin's just disappeared, so I'm going to do my plugs first. So yeah, you can find me at Benjamin Bloom on Twitter, and it's the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel on YouTube for plenty of Championship stuff and a little bit of writing each week over on Football 365. Justin, you have returned right on time. I was just going to do a second tier podcast plug, although I probably would have messed it up completely. Let us know about the podcast and a new show, I think, announced just this past week.
Yep. So my co-host Ryan is doing a betting show that's released every Thursday. Hopefully I've got that right. But yeah, it's on every Thursday, and obviously we've got our preview and weekend review shows released on a Thursday and a Sunday as well. So you can catch them at Second Tier Pod.
And a brilliant Twitter feed. Plug the Twitter.
It's at Second Tier Pod. It's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere.
Once a day, that Twitter feed makes me laugh. It's a very, very good follow, I have to say. Right, thank you everybody for watching. This has been Championship 365. Ben, thank you for hosting us on your wonderful channel here. Hope everybody doesn't dislike Justin and I too much in sort of jumping in on your turf here. I believe we'll be going down the Second Tier feed next week at some point, and then we'll be back over on my channel. So please do support Championship Football, Championship creators, myself, Second Tier, Justin and Ryan, and Ben HD. Obviously, you're already here on his channel, but we are enjoying these shows and looking forward to how they develop. Say goodbye, Ben.
Top stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone.
And say goodbye, Justin, and get well soon, my friend.
No, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And
we will see you all next week down the Second Tier feed. So please do whatever podcast that we're not going to be on YouTube. Please do go and hit that subscribe button.